Okay, so we're going to go over how to graph a quadratic function. If you turn to page 10 in your packets, we're going to start with this one. So, the first thing, even though in this packet we say the first thing to determine is whether it's going to face up or face down, and this one is going to face down because it's negative, I think the first thing we should always do is find the axis of symmetry. And the axis of symmetry is an equation, x equals negative b over 2a. So in this case, b is 2, so negative b is negative 2. A is negative 1, so 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, which means our axis of symmetry is x equals negative 1. Now step 2 is to find the vertex. And we find the vertex by plugging in, let x equal 1 into our function. So f of 1 equals negative 1 squared plus 2 times 1 minus 1. So we plug, when x equals 1 into this function, what is the y value? And in this case, f of 1 equals negative 1 plus 2 minus 1, so it equals 0. So now our vertex is 1, 0. So this is where we start. We start with an axis of symmetry and a vertex. Now, we take our axis of symmetry, which is x equals 1, and our vertex 1, 0, and we make a chart. And we put our vertex in the middle of our chart, and we pick numbers to the right and numbers to the left. Now, because it's a parabola and there's symmetry, I only have to plug in 2 numbers, and the other 2 get automatically filled in. So I'm going to plug in 0, and if I plug in 0, this is 0, this is 0, y equals negative 1, and because x is 0, this is the y-intercept. Then I plug in negative 1. The opposite of negative 1 squared is negative 1, times 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, so negative 1 plus negative 2 is negative 3, minus 1 is negative 4. So now I'm going to use these values and graph. So the next step is to graph. So here I am going to plot my vertex, which is at 1, 0, and then I do 0, negative 1, negative 1, negative 4, 2, negative 1, 3, negative 4, and this is my parabola. Now, there's also a shortcut way of graphing. And the shortcut way says you start at the vertex. So you start at the vertex every single time. And you go over 1, up 1 squared times a. Over 2, up 2 squared times a. And over 3, up 3 squared times a. So this is really 1a, 4a, and 9a. Okay? So in this case, a equals negative 1. So if I go over 1, I go up 1 squared times negative 1, which is negative 1. So I actually go down 1 in both directions. Then I go over 2, up 4 times a. Well, if a is negative 1, I go down 4. And here I could actually go over 3, and I'm going to go down 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this would actually be a better representation of the parabola. Okay, so at the beginning I want you both to use the chart method and the shortcut counting method. But for both of these, you always have to find the axis of symmetry and the vertex first. So now I want everybody to turn to page 9. I did this kind of backwards, but turn to page 9. And page 9 has y equals x squared plus 2x minus 1. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, step number 1, is find the axis of symmetry. So negative b would be negative 2, a is 1, so x equals negative 2 over 2, so x equals negative 1. Step 2 is to find the vertex. So I plug in f of negative 1 into my function. So negative 1 squared is 1, plus 2 times negative 1 is minus 2, minus 1. So f of negative 1 equals negative 2. So my vertex is negative 1, negative 2. Okay, so now that I have the vertex, negative 1, negative 2, and this is my axis of symmetry. So let me rewrite this equation here. So I can plot negative 1, negative 2. So 2 ways to graph. The first is to do my table. So I'm going to pick 0 and 1. And if I plug in 0, this is negative 1. If I plug in 1, 1 squared plus 2 is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. So I'm going to plot these points. This is negative 1, negative 2, negative 2, negative 1, negative 3, 2. And I can do 0, negative 1, and 1, 2. And here is my parabola. Okay, now we can also practice the shortcut way. And the shortcut way is to start at the vertex. And we go over 1, up 1 squared a, over 2, up 2 squared a, over 3, up 3 squared a. Okay, so over 1, up 1 squared times 1, because a equals 1, so it's over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1. Over 2 squared, over 4 times 1, so it's over 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4. Over 2, up 4. Now I'm going to go over 3, and it's over 3, up 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And over 3, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? So again, I want you to practice both the chart way and the shortcut way.